If you watched my previous video about how I turned Mochi's habit of biting my plants into an opportunity to create a DIY cat garden, you are aware that this video is the second half to that, which is how I turned Rico's habit of losing and breaking toys into a DIY that turns into his #1 toy. So let's go back to the thought process behind this. I noticed that there were 3 mistakes that I was making as a cat parent. One of the mistakes was that I was allowing myself to normalize the idea of my cats being bored. 2 of the areas that I noticed that mistake was most prevalent was when Mochi was biting my plants in my garden and when Rico was kicking things into places that he shouldn't. And rather than giving them something that they were able to use, I found myself in the habit of blocking Mochi from getting access to my plants and blocking Rico from being able to play in the way that he was trying to. In the previous video I mentioned, I created a DIY cat garden for Mochi, and both Mochi and Rico actually really ended up loving this DIY. In fact, it became a staple form of enrichment that they've been using for at least a week now. So when it came to approaching how I planned to fix the mistake that I made with Rico, I first addressed what he enjoyed out of what he was doing and what I can use to kind of replicate that experience. I noticed that he really enjoyed that inch line of space in between doors that allowed for things to get knocked in between it. It was almost like he was playing soccer under the doors. So he really likes the thrill of things hiding and him being able to retrieve it. He's also a big fan of ripping, shredding, biting, yanking. So I wanted to make this DIY as interactive as possible, but without it being destructible, because he has destroyed every single toy that we've given him. So when I went on Pinterest and looked up some inspiration for DIY cat toys, I noticed that a lot of people were utilizing toilet paper rolls, old boxes, paper, and some treats. And these were all things that I had in my household. So when I took inspiration from some of those things, I came up with my own concept based on the enrichment that Rico was going for. So I took an old box and I came up with this concept where I wanted him to have enough space to reach his paws, but not his whole body, kind of like at the bottom of a door. And then I also wanted to kind of hang toys in there, add strings into it, throw in some of their favorite toys so that I can make it as interactive as possible. I also cut some holes on the side of it so that I would be able to throw treats inside of there and yank them out. And I actually had a lot of fun the other night teaching my cats how to reach their arm in the tunnel and get some treats. Once I got the base of the toy down, I started to have a blast with getting creative on some of the things that I had around my house that I could add to it. And this is the idea that I came up with. The first time I test trialed it with Mochi and Rico, I didn't expect it to be this successful. And so in light of seeing how excited they were about it, I decided to go all out and kind of decorate it. This ended up being a DIY that had the exact effect that I was looking for, and it was 100% free. When we're training, I started to use this as like an enriching treat puzzle for them. And so when I throw treats in there and leave for a few minutes and come back, they're still interacting with it. The only update that I've made to it since they've been using it was that I ended up actually taking it from being that small hole that they were able to reach their paws in and just cut it into a much larger size that they were eventually able to reach their bodies into. Because although Mochi was smart enough not to get her head stuck in it, we watched Rico use it a few times and he got his head stuck inside of it. So we figured for safety reasons, we just wanted to make it big enough for them to fit their bodies inside of it without them being harmed in any way. And honestly, the biggest takeaway after doing both of these DIYs is that I don't have to buy a bunch of toys from all these crazy fancy companies. I honestly just have to read my cats and then come up with something based on their characteristics as little cats. So I definitely see myself doing more stuff like this in the future. I am a huge fan of cat DIYs. I try to organize the thought process behind what I did so that if anybody wants to replicate this, you can try it too. Or if you created anything cooler, I would love to see it and maybe try it out for myself. For those of you that are interested in the step-by-step instruction on how to create these DIYs, just go ahead and click the Model Parent Community link below and it will be in the tools and resources section. But that's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for joining my video and I hope to see you next time.